think to some degree I've always known that I'm not straight, but it took me a long time to be accepting of that. From a young age, I had quite intense friendships with girls. I'd get quite jealous. I was quite consumed by the friendships. And looking back, I think it was probably because I had stronger feelings than I realized at the time. My first kiss was with a friend of mine, and I guess it's normal for kids to sort of try things out and see what they think, and I didn't really think too much of it at the time. But now looking back, I think it was a pretty defining moment in understanding that there was something more there for me. I've always had attraction to guys all through school and uni, and even now. That will never go away. That's something that I've always been aware of. It wasn't until my first year of uni that I dated a girl that I met on Tumblr, and this was where it started to get sort of interesting. I liked this girl. I thought she was really nice, but we definitely felt more like friends. And I think because I was so unsure of my own sexuality, it meant that I sort of pulled back because I didn't want to lead her on. Dated some other people. I had a boyfriend, and we were together sort of on and off for a couple of years. He was bisexual, and when I told my mum that, she didn't really understand, and she told me that she just thought that he was gay, and she couldn't really grasp the concept of being attracted to more than one gender. So I pretty much took that as a sign that it wasn't a safe space for me to be attracted to more than one gender. I dated a few more people over the next few years, mostly pretty casually. I dated a whole range of people, different genders, different heights, interests, all sorts. I think I just was trying to figure out what I liked and who I wanted to spend my time with. Yeah, I was just sort of willing and open to date lots of different people and see what happened. I was on Tinder and I had it set to boys and girls, and during the lockdown back in 2020, I started talking to this girl and she was nice, and after the lockdown ended, we sort of went out for some walks and things, and then I did stay at her place one night, but I just wasn't really feeling it. And I think, again, because I was so unsure of myself, I didn't want to lead this person on, but I think I just also didn't feel that much of an attraction. And it was not her fault or anything, it was just where I was. And I don't think I necessarily knew my type of girl, especially because I hadn't dated a lot of girls. And so I started to think, well, if I'm not attracted to her, maybe I'm just not attracted to girls, which I don't think was necessarily true. But yeah, I just became quite confused. So after that, I dated a couple other people and then met my now ex-boyfriend. So we were together for 3.5 years. I'd sort of mentioned quite early on that I did have some attraction to girls, and that I hadn't really had much experience with girls and things. And I think the longer we were together, as well as a lot of other problems, I started to feel like I was missing out on a part of myself that I hadn't really looked into. I was starting to become a lot more confident in who I was in other parts of my life, and I started to think, well, if I was really with the person that I was meant to be with, I wouldn't be sort of thinking about the what if or what would happen if I wasn't with this person kind of thing. We eventually broke up. I was living with this person, so it was a little bit messy. And I did start dating probably a couple of months after. I went out with one guy on a very last minute date, and he was nice enough. I just didn't really feel that much sort of attraction. But it was definitely nice to feel like there were other people out there, and yeah, it was nice to feel liked as well, because I hadn't felt like that in a while, and because there was such a lack of sort of emotional connection or any sexual attraction during my previous relationship. I started to kind of wonder if I had any sexual attraction at all. I started to wonder if maybe I was asexual, and now I know that that was not right. It was just because of the relationship I was in. Yeah, I think it was an important thing that I started dating again, because it sort of reset my attraction to other people, if that makes sense. I think when you're in a long-term relationship as well, you don't really look at other people. And if you do, it's probably maybe a sign that you're not where you should be. I think because of the society that we're raised in, it can be easier, especially for someone that's attracted to more than one gender, just to date the gender that is easiest. So for me, that would be dating a guy. And I did that for a long time because it didn't need to come with an explanation. It didn't mean that I had to come out. I could just date and no one even cared, really. When I met my current partner about 8 months ago, things improved for the better. I think I became so much more confident in just who I am as a person, in my sexuality, in the things that I'm doing in my life. And I felt such a connection that gender didn't even come into it for me. It made me realize that my attraction has never really been about gender. It's mostly to do with the emotional connection, and that makes everything else in the relationship so much stronger. There are definitely certain masculine traits that I'm very attracted to, but there are also feminine traits that I really enjoy in a person, regardless of gender. More masculine traits that I like are feeling protected, safe, and then more feminine traits might be the ability to talk about their feelings, open up, and have more sort of gentle and vulnerable moments. I tend to be attracted to someone with goals and dreams and passions and the ability to show love and receive love and to want to have fun and all these things, and a willingness to learn about themselves. These are all attractive qualities in a person. And as I said, it doesn't matter what gender that person is. If you can find a connection with someone. Seeing people online and in person being confident with who they are made me feel more confident to be who I am. I follow a lot of sort of LGBT accounts online, and they have such pride in themselves, and it's so unapologetic, and I think that that's such an important thing to be, especially in a world that can be so harsh. It has definitely been a bit of an adjustment, being in a queer relationship as opposed to a straight relationship. Just being out in public, I notice people looking at us, and it doesn't bother me, but it's certainly something that I'm aware of. And I just have to remind myself how much I care for my partner and the relationship that we have. And it's not about those people, it's about us and the time that we're spending together. It's so much better to be yourself, especially in a society that wants to put us in a box and give us labels and all this sort of stuff. Whether it's your sexuality, your gender, just your interests, or the way you want to live your life, you've just got to do what feels right for you. And you might lose people along the way, but you might also gain people that can relate to you, that have similar struggles or stories or beliefs. And I'm so glad that I'm in a place where I feel confident enough to be who I am publicly. I came out on Facebook basically in a very hard launch kind of style when I announced my relationship. And I think a lot of family and maybe some friends were quite surprised. But, you know, now they know. I didn't die, nothing bad happened. I am glad that I did that, and I don't regret coming out like that. And now I'm just living my life and enjoying who I am and the people that I spend my time with. I think I've been pretty lucky with my parents and how accepting they've been. I was initially worried about mum because of what she said about my first boyfriend being bisexual. But Dad's always been pretty chill. I remember a few years ago, I just asked him, what would you do if I was dating a girl? And I can't even remember who I was dating at that point or if I was single. But he just said, well, you know, I'd be fine with that as long as you're happy. And I think that's sort of how mum is as well now, which is nice. Just seeing me in a good place mentally and emotionally is probably, you would hope, a parent's main goal for their children. And I think my relationship with my parents has sort of improved a lot anyway recently. That's another whole video about acceptance. But I know that it's not that easy for everyone, so I am very grateful that I've had that experience. I partly think it's because they know that I wouldn't hesitate to stop communicating with them if they weren't going to accept me. And I think that's made them realize what's important, and that's being supportive. If I had advice for anyone that's younger than me to do with coming out, I would say if you feel that you're in a safe position to do so, just go for it, because once you're on the other side, it just feels so good. The ability to be yourself without worrying about your big secret getting out is great. And if you don't feel like you are ready to come out, then I'm sure one day you'll be in a position where you do want to come out. And I think you should at some point. That doesn't mean that you have to start dating people, but just acknowledging the parts of you that you haven't always acknowledged is very important for personal growth.